Hey guys, let's talk about residual income. This is something that a lot of home business people talk about. I was just on Facebook a second ago seeing some of my friends talking about residual income and kind of putting it out there like, hey, how would you feel about working hard for 2 or 3 or 4 years if you could make a permanent residual income? And of course, predictably, a lot of people comment and they'll come in and say, oh yeah, count me in for that. Of course I'd do that. And of course we would, right? So where are the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that surely have done this by now? Because that's been the pitch for decades. When I started in network marketing 20 years ago, that was the pitch. Have this back in that day, we called it this walkaway residual income. And I worked hard. I worked hard on that. I did what I was told to do. I did it big. I did it for a long time. So why don't I have it? If you're a network marketer, why don't you have it? Why don't more of us have this? I think it's because we fail to consider the reality and the logic. I mean, just think through this logically. Here, I can't go outside, it's too windy, so I'm gonna stick you up here. Okay, this will be better. Here we go. All right, so here's the deal. Let's look at exactly how residual income is created. Let me ask you a few questions. So let's say you're with company A, and their product or service is patented and awesome and sexy and it's really cool, really killer, which normally that's normally what marketers or wannabe marketers, entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, that's what we're pulled into, right? It's this emotional pull towards this really interesting product or service or angle, something like that. And often the background pitch is, man, work this hard for 2, 3, 4 years and we can have an income that'll last a lifetime. Will it to your kids, that kind of stuff. So we buy into it. And here's the mechanics of what's actually going on behind the scenes. We have to know in advance that anytime you do a multi-level, which I'm a fan of, by the way, but anytime you do a multi-level kind of approach where you're referring people and the goal is to have them refer people who have them refer people and so on, and you earn an override on all of this activity, which I love, I'm a huge fan of. But anytime you have that going on, you're going to have a very high failure rate. Very high. This is documented. It's been well documented for something around 70 years. That the average failure rate is about 90%. It's actually higher. Let's just say it's only 90%. What that means is when you're out there promoting your thing, about 90% of people who come into your organization are going to fail to make money. This is really important because think about the logical progression here. We're putting this word out to our family, our friends, and all the people around us, people in social media, people out in the community, people around the world. And the world is made up of the 90-10 rule. I think a lot of people might say the 80-20, but I think it's at least 90-10. And the way I look at it, the way I see it, the way I've seen it for 20 years, 10% of people do 90% of the work. The 90%ers come along for the ride briefly, typically. And this is what's typical. And part of the reason this is what's typical is the 90%ers. So out of 1,000 people, 900 people are going to be what? They're going to be 90%ers. Those 90%ers, those 900 people will fail to make profit in whatever it is you're doing. So let's say you succeed, you build this team, you build this organization, you're really spreading the word, you're doing a great job. 90% of people, give or take, are going to fail. The big question you have to ask is then what? So let's put the product, the service, whatever it is you're marketing and selling, let's put this back into the picture. You've got 1,000 people in your organization, well on your way to this fabled, passive residual income, right? Or you should be. Problem is, 90% of these folks have failed. So here's the test. What are those 90 percenters going to do now that they're not making a profit? They probably came into your world hoping to make a profit, most of them, right? Let's say that, let me give you the best case scenario in favor of this fabled residual income. Let's say that 90% of the people in your organization don't care about making money. Let's just pretend that only 10% care about making money, and those 10% are succeeding. You have this perfect world scenario. 90% of people came into your business with no hope, no plans to make any money. So when they fail to make money, they don't care because they weren't planning on doing it anyway. Let's just pretend, okay? Here's the real test. 90 days, 180 days down the road, are those consumers, because what I'm supposing here, what I'm assuming here, is that for you to have a stable, predictable, consistent, relentless, never-ending residual income, these folks you're pulling into your organization, they have to consume something on a monthly basis. That's the basis for most MLM kind of things. It's this auto ship, you get something every month, and you're on this subscription until you cancel it. So let's zero in on the 90 percenters who are consuming whatever it is you're marketing. Is it reasonable? Is it likely that, do you have data to support the idea that these folks, the majority of people in your organization, will still continue to consume whatever this is 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? Is it reasonable for us to assume that these guys will continue to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy till they die? Is it reasonable? If it's reasonable, you just passed the test with flying colors. Now I would ask about data. Do you have data? Because wherever you are, whatever you're working, if you haven't built a big organization yet, and you're kind of going through this with me and you're passing these tests, at least, or you think that you are, I would encourage you to track upline, go to the company, and ask about documentation and data. Be very sure that what you have does actually pass those tests. I wish I had gone through this train of thought 20 years ago. I wish I had. I spent 19 years chasing my tail, pursuing residual income and not getting it. Only recently did I put together this series of tests, this train of thought to, really, really try, really test the logic and the pitch of whatever it is that I do. And now finally, after 19 years of chasing my tail, I do have a residual income. I'm quickly building a residual income. And I'm very excited. I've got data. I've got the logic all checked out. I'm not, drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever it was for 19 years. I psyched myself out. I don't have any of that going on. So I just challenge you. Look hard at what you're doing. Test it thoroughly. Make sure you're not chasing your tail, because the last thing any of us want to do is just pass time, right? That's why we're entrepreneurs. That's why we're pursuing the things that we pursue. We want freedom. We want leverage. We want that passive income. If you're chasing your tail, wake up. Make different decisions. That'd be my advice. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you around.